4 years ago, in this quiet forest, in this cozy cabin, something happened. Now, from the creator of Evil Dead, comes Evil Dead 2.
Greetings, children of the screen. Your friendly neighbor Ashy Slashy here once again, and I am joined by...
Taylor?
And Nerd Scum? That's right, and welcome to Evil Dead October here on channel Ashy Slashy. Nerd Scum. Yeah, whatever, pal. Today, we're talking about Evil Dead 2. Yeah! It's a good fucking movie. Evil Dead 2 was originally released in 1987, rated R, coming in at 84 minutes. The film is directed by Sam Raimi and written by Sam Raimi and Scotty Spiegel, with a cast that includes Bruce Campbell returning, along with Sarah Berry, Dan Hicks, Cassie Wesley, Ted Raimi, Denise Bixler, Richard Dominier, John Peaks, and Lou Hancock. Right on, guys, that is right. We are looking at Evil Dead 2. And again, Taylor has never seen any of the movies in the Evil Dead franchise. This is her first time going in, so you have two different perspectives, someone who this is all brand new to, and someone who has lived with these movies since I was about 10 years old. So, Taylor, Evil Dead 2, general brief thoughts. What'd you think?
Hilarious and completely different, yet the same to the first movie. In a weird way.
That's fair, I guess. I mean, like, it has a lot of similar elements that have just been recontextualized. And again, obviously, I love Evil Dead 2. No, obviously not all these things are from Evil Dead 2, but the majority of my Evil Dead stuff is from Evil Dead 2. It's one of my favorite movies. And interestingly, one of the reasons why the movie is what it is because Sam Raimi got brought up on charges for frickin' obscenity in Britain because of the first Evil Dead movie. So when he decided to make a sequel, he decided, well, fuck it, I'm making it a comedy, and I'm still going to utilize all the little pieces of mythology that we set up, but I'm just going to go more dark fairy tale with it, and then add like a bunch of slapstick Three Stooges humor and let Bruce Campbell be Bruce Campbell and rock that shit. So yeah, all in all, we're at least agreed it's a dope movie. So right now we're going to go ahead and jump into some of the things that we really enjoyed about the movie, and then we will close out with a couple of problems the movie has. That doesn't necessarily mean that there are things that ruin the movie for us, but issues, because every movie has issues, and my God, this is an early Sam Raimi movie, so there are some issues here. And they just kind of make the movie all that bit much better, all that more rich. I fucking love Evil Dead 2.
Something so frightening. Something so deadly. Something so evil. We prayed it would never happen again. Swallow your soul! Evil Dead 2, Dead by Dawn.
Taylor, alright. Favorite things about Evil Dead motherfucking 2!
So, I like the mirror part where, like, he's looking at the mirror and his reflection just reaches out to him.
Yeah.
Because it, like, freaks you out. You're just like, oh my God.
Right, where he's like, we just cut up our girlfriend with a chainsaw. Does that sound fine? And then starts freaking out. Yeah, that's great. It's also great because it is a callback to kind of a thing that happens in the first movie where he's like looking at his reflection in the mirror and reaches out for it and like reaches into it like it's a pool of water, which is also a really cool effect. And then this is just kind of taking it one step further. They got that great, like, for the evil version of him, they've got like a Sid Caesar like freaking chin just in like a witch nose. They really pronounced everything, made his eyebrows more predominant, really gave him the unibrow, which Sam Raimi includes throughout most of this movie anyway, with blood, where he's just like, nah, we're always going to have blood right in the middle of your fucking eye, so you always have that unibrow. I don't care how much more handsome you are now than when we did the first movie. You're sporting a unibrow whether you like it or not. But no, yeah, that's really cool. And again, like, because we've seen Bruce as the evil monster form of himself, like, it also adds like an extra layer to like the whole fighting with yourself type thing. So yeah, it's fun. And then like we get it again later when it's just his possessed hand, and it's great that the mirror fight is kind of what leads into the hand possession.
Love that.
So yeah, well, it's like all these crazy random themes, but they are interconnected by like a logical string of theme that kind of like interweave them in this beautiful kind of like fairy tale nightmare tapestry with this weird dream logic. It's great. Especially because like all the way up until new people get to the house, we kind of delve into that world where it's this kind of like weird distorted nightmare that the evil is like driving this dude mad. And it's not until other human beings with more rational mindsets who don't realize how fucked they are show up that the movie kind of normalizes for a little bit. So yeah, that's a great moment and a really good point. As for me, it's really hard to like narrow it down because, as I said, I love this movie, and like there are so many things in the movie that are my favorite things, not about the movie but in of themselves. So I'm just gonna try to pick a few great ones that like get me every single time the movie's on. First off, Bruce Campbell overall is just fantastic in this movie. Everything he does is freaking amazing. And obviously, like, he's the hero of the movie and the hero of the franchise, but specifically, this movie plays to all of his strengths in a really amazing way, and really kind of lets him be very versatile in one character, where he kind of gets to go through all these different archetypes throughout the course of the movie. But also, like, he is scared so many times and screams so many times that they had to start finding creative ways of doing it. And like we mentioned in the previous video for Evil Dead 1, there's a point in this movie where he's at the bottom of the stairs when Henrietta pops out, where Sam Raimi's like, alright, so now you've screamed like a man for so much of this movie, now you're going to have to scream like a woman on this one. And that's how we get that scene. But my favorite scream of Bruce Campbell's in the movie is he wakes up from the dream of his dead girlfriend dancing with her severed head, and like wakes up in the chair, and he gets out one good scream as he wakes up, but then as it like sets in that it was a dream, he's still so messed up by it. He's trying to scream again, and he's just like, and like nothing will come out of his mouth, and it takes him like 3 times, and then finally it's like this like horrible guttural, just like it doesn't even sound like a scream anymore. It's just like this weird wail of sorrow. Like, it's really hilarious, and also like perfectly fits where his character would be at that moment. Like, the comedy that he plays, like, in that moment and in much of this movie works because he doesn't play it like a joke. He plays it like, to the character, it's a serious moment, and this is seriously happening. But to us, we understand how ridiculous it is, so it's fucking hilarious. Alright, so, Taylor, back to you. What was something else that you really loved in this film?
Just the chainsaw hand.
Chainsaw hand?
Chainsaw hand, yeah. I want one of my own.
You really are such a basic bitch, aren't you?
Yeah, of course.
No, I'm kidding. The chainsaw hand is fucking dope, of course. Like, it is what, like, honestly, Ash is a great character, but the chainsaw hand is what made him an icon. It's why, like, even though almost all of these figures I have the option to not have the chainsaw hand, they always have the chainsaw hand. And it's why this guy and that guy and every other little doodad that you find has the chainsaw hand. Not to mention, like, the way that Sam Raimi shoots the sequence of the Ash Gear Up sequence is one of those things where, like, we've had the, like, in film before, obviously, like, the gearing up for the final showdown and stuff like that. But when you look at this sequence, you really see the prototype for, like, the modern day suit up sequence that we've seen. Like, from everything from, like, the Batman movies to kind of, like, Edgar Wright and everything he does whenever he's getting characters ready, like, with, like, the zooms and everything, the snap zooms, like, it is the prototype for what so many filmmakers would do in terms of, like, the gearing up, and, like, and it does the push and everything, the music, like, it's perfect in its execution, and then leads you to this ultimate moment where you feel like Ash has never been more badass, and then he goes, groovy, and you remember who the character you're with is. And it's like, you know what? You are a badass, and you're also a dork,
Yeah.
and that's what makes you awesome. So yeah, that's, Chainsaw Hand, like, you can't go wrong with it. And the chainsaw has such a history with the character already that, like, it becoming part of him, it's not only he loses his hand to, like, the evil of the book, but also in doing so, he had to take this instrument of death and destruction that he used to survive. He actually had to take something that was, like, tainted by that evil and merge it with his body in order to survive. Like, really pushing home the idea of how much this character has changed in a very visual way. And it's just so fucking rock and roll, too. It's awesome. I love the chainsaw hand. What can I say? What color is yours going to be when you get your own chainsaw hand? Are you going to go with the classic red, or are you going to go with something a little more modern?
I don't know. I might do, like, some red sequins with, like, black in it. Mostly black.
Yeah, that sounds really gaudy. Sam Raimi would approve. Motherfucking chainsaw. So yeah, that's a good one. For me, real quick, I'm going to do a little one because it's a throwaway thing in the movie, but it's might be my absolute favorite thing. It's hard to say. It's just so small. After he cuts his hand off and he puts the wastebasket on his hand, he puts the book down, and it's a farewell to arms. And it gets me every fucking time, and it's like, this movie does this consistently, where every beat, it milks the maximum potential of the shot or the moment that they are doing. And so, like, you could have put anything on there, and it could have been just, like, the joke. It's funny enough that the hand is like, rah, 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 and you put it in the wastebasket, but it's just, like, hitting every possible beat you could hit with that. Making every joke you could make in that moment. It's fantastic. The other thing that I want to mention, because I actually, not too long ago, saw another YouTube video where they talked about this moment, but didn't have any idea what they were talking about, and I love it, so I want to address it. So, in the scene that basically bridges the original Evil Dead to this one, where, like, the evil hits him, and we see him go flying through the air, and, like, he's spinning, and, like, trees are hitting him and shit, like, in this video I watched, they were like, well, you know, that wasn't a very impressive, like, you know, it was obviously like a composite, it's a fake shot. No, it's fucking not. In that shot, what they did is they went in North Carolina where they were shooting, and they found a really long, really straight stretch of road that had really tall trees on it. And then they literally took a car and built a special rig that had like a gyro type device on it, where Bruce Campbell was crucified like in an X stance. And then Sam Raimi had control of this thing and was spinning it, and the camera's out of position so that all the trees you see on the far outside are the real trees, but there are crew members on this same thing holding up other branches while Sam Raimi's spinning this thing and hitting Bruce repeatedly in the face with a fucking bush to get all those like, I swear to God, when you watch any Sam Raimi movie, if there's ever an actor who gets hit in the face with something random as like a joke beat or something like that, you know Sam Raimi puppeteered that fucking bush or that book bag or whatever it might be. Because that's what he does. If you're his main actor, he's going to fuck with you. And Bruce gets it worse than anyone except for Teddy. And we will talk about Teddy. But yeah, so I absolutely love that scene. It's visually amazing. And it perfectly sets the tone for what the rest of the movie's going to be. It's also the first moment in the movie where everything we see in the movie up to that is very much Sam Raimi. But that moment is kind of when Sam Raimi becomes motherfucking Sam Raimi. And that's evident by, like, every shot in Spider-Man 2 in the Dr. Octopus, like, arms come to life and killing people sequence, every shot that's in that sequence is in this movie. So, like, this, for me, is purest Sam Raimi. And that scene perfectly exemplifies that. So, Taylor, anything else?
No.
Only two! Only two things? How dare you? How fucking dare you? No, it's overwhelming. It's a movie that's got a lot going on. How about Henrietta, The Witch in the Cellar? What'd you think of Henrietta?
Crazy.
Yeah, and that is great because, again, she's played by a actress whenever she is the mother character in the couple of scenes she has, but for the majority of the movie, Henrietta is played by Ted Raimi, who, as I mentioned, is the only actor who maybe on this movie had it worse than Bruce. Because he's Sam's little brother. He has no liability in whatever happens to him. He's like, fine, whatever, put Ted in the 150-pound fat suit for Henrietta and like hang him up from the ceiling all day and spin him around and bury him in the dirt and make him pop out and get sand in his eyes. Fuck it, it's Ted. He's a young kid. He'll do it. And man, like, he gives a great performance as that character in this movie. Like, he is creepy and funny and threatening when he needs to be, and like just gives it his all in a role that has to be one of the most uncomfortable roles that like anyone has ever taken part in, outside of like, you know, freaking, I don't know, like maybe Michael Rooker in Slither, and like a few other exceptions. Like, he had to be the most uncomfortable guy, at least on this set. And like, because of the weight of this thing, back in the day, the way they were making it, he has like these bean bags in for like the tits and the gut and everything. And so like, with all this weight and all this heat, they're filming on a set built in a gymnasium in North Carolina in the middle of the summer. And like, there's no AC on for sound, and because they weren't allowed to because of the power cost. So he is just cooking in this thing, and every day when they're pulling off the little booties that he wears to be Henrietta, they're just pouring out sweat mixed with talcum powder, like this white liquid, just like cups and cups and cups of it. And this dude's just losing pounds by the day. And like, by the time the movie's done, he looks like Ted Raimi that we know. He's just like a little stick figure man, and he's like that for the rest of his freaking life. It's kind of nice now that he's getting a little older in age. He's starting to like look a little healthier. It's like, oh, isn't it good for you, Ted? Good for you. And people who are fans of Sam Raimi and Ted Raimi will know that, like, beyond this, he went on to do a lot of stuff. Obviously, he's in the Spider-Man movies as, like, J. Jonah Jameson's right-hand man. Back whenever Sam was producing the Hercules and Xena shows, he showed up on Xena as Joxer, one of her, like, compatriots and stuff. So, yeah, like, you know, he went through hell, and it's paid off. He got a career out of it, you know? So, good on you, Ted. You're an amazing part of this movie and an amazing icon of horror cinema, and we love you. You're great in this movie. And it's motherfucking Evil Dead 2, so it was fucking worth it. God damn. You crazy diamond motherfuckers. Keep on shining. Right on, guys. So those are just a few of the things that we loved out of this movie. Obviously, despite the fact that Taylor says there's only 2 things that she loved, it's overwhelming. Okay, it's all right. Don't blame her. I know what you're typing. Don't fucking type that in the comments. That's not nice. Thank you. Just it's cool. Okay. So anyway, guys. What we're gonna do now, because literally we could sit around and suck Evil Dead 2's dick all day long, but it's like 6 or 7 in the morning where we are, and we've been up all night, so we're instead gonna go ahead and talk about a few of the shortcomings of the film, which it does have, even if they do kind of enhance the charm of the film in some respects. Taylor, what's something, since you can only think of 2 fucking things that you like, never mind, I'm sorry, I'm over it, don't worry. What's something that you felt didn't work or fell short in the film?
I just didn't like the fact that you completely forgot Ed.
Yeah.
By the end of the movie, he was just like, you know,
well, I mean,
whatever.
He's forgettable. He's like, other than, you know, friggin' Ash's girlfriend, he's the first one to die. Like, he's the first one to become a Deadite and then get killed, and he gets dispatched very quickly. I mean, he's got like a great sequence when he does get turned, and like, let's face it, there's no character there for him really. Like, he has a bit of a backstory, and there's kind of like this implication that maybe he's romantically interested in the Nobi's daughter, but like, it doesn't really seem like that's a two-way thing. So like, he's really has no character. He's literally just pretty boy fodder So that, like, you're like, oh yeah, well, he looks like the guy who, you know, kind of lasts in a horror movie. He'll probably make it pretty close to the end. No, fuck that. He's just here to turn into a Deadite and look like, basically become a cool Evil Ed looking motherfucker who gets his head chopped off. Well, not his head chopped off. He actually gets his head chopped off in half.
Yeah.
Which is great, and we barely see it in the movie. It's actually, some of the deleted scenes actually show they built this whole extra piece of the head that would, like, lay on the floor and the eye would twitch, like the top part that got cut off. And it's great because when I bought this action figure, it actually came with that severed head piece, so you can switch the heads out and have that. It's really dope. But again, they were worried about getting, like, a more harsh rating because of what happened with the first movie. And again, in this movie, they even put in all the different colored blood, hoping that would, appease the MPAA. And they're like, no, that's worse. That's worse. That's gross. That's even grosser. So you just can't fucking win with these guys. But yeah, like, he's totally forgettable. Like, the most memorable thing about him in the whole thing is whenever he throws Danny Hicks up and he hits his head on the light bulb because it's ridiculous. That's his high point. Get it? Because the light. High point. But yeah, that's fair. It's like, he's a throwaway, forgettable horror movie character, kind of a stock character, and, like, you know, again, every movie like this has them, so, like, at least they embraced it and didn't waste our time with any meaningless bullshit with him.
Yeah.
And he died really fun. Okay, so that's definitely fair. I'm going to go ahead and, again, take the easy road on this one and say continuity. Because, like, both are really all three of the Evil Dead movies, and to some extent the TV show, the continuity is just all over the fucking place. I love that in this movie they instituted the idea that every now and then Ash is just going to have to wipe his face off. And he did it towards the end of the first movie, but in this movie they made him do it multiple times, because if they didn't, he would just be goop and brown and gray everywhere for the whole fucking film. You wouldn't be able to see a person underneath there anymore. He'd just look like a muck man or something. So yeah, like, but the continuity is fucking crazy. Like, where bloodstains are on his clothes, where they are in the cabin. A few instances of, like, things that are really, really bad are things like whenever, Danny Hicks's character gets pulled into the cellar by Henrietta, and, like, his legs are kicking, and there's blood going fucking everywhere, and it's fucking insanity. And then, like, when we cut out of that shot of the effect to her reacting to it, she's got a little bit of blood on her arms, and a little bit of blood here, and almost no blood on her legs or anything, whereas in the previous shot, she is just fucking drenched in goddamn blood. Another good example of this is when Ash goes into the basement to look for the pages, the cellar to look for the pages, his chainsaw at one point in the cellar flips hands. Because the way they shot it, it didn't feel right with the visuals, so they flipped the footage. So the result is that you have the chainsaw on the wrong hand, you know. And again, there are a few other things in the movie that just don't add up or line up, but also one of the big issues is that when making this movie, they couldn't, secure rights to any footage from the first movie. So they kind of have to retell the first movie in a compressed amount of time, so it's just Linda and Ash who are there, and in doing so, like, there's a lot of little pieces of continuity and things that don't add up. And on top of that, they aesthetically change everything in the movie. The cabin looks pretty solid. Like, obviously the color palette seems to have changed, but other than that, you probably, if you weren't thinking about it, wouldn't really notice a big difference in the cabin. They do a really good job of recreating it. But, like, Ash's wardrobe, while it's the same color, completely different. The Necronomicon, Book of the Dead, is completely redesigned, and they do that for each of the movies. It's actually one of the few things that actually does kind of frustrate me in these movies. And then on top of that, there's the Kandarian dagger, which now has, like, full spinal bones all the way down, which I admit is much fucking cooler, but that's not the way it was. So, you know. But yeah, so, like, continuity in the movie's fucked, obviously. It's an Evil Dead movie. What you gonna do? It's part of the fun, you know? Like, these are fun cheeseball movies, so why do I care if the blood's in the same place as long as they keep it flowing and keep me laughing or scared or excited or whatever the fuck they're trying to achieve in any given scene, because I can guarantee they're gonna achieve it. The only other thing that I can really think of that, like, is an obvious kind of downside to the movie is that some of the effects don't hold up that great. And don't misunderstand me, there are some effects in this movie that are meant to look silly, and those do, and they work perfectly, like the body of Linda, that basically looks like a rotting Kermit the Frog headless Muppet with a tit that's just like slamming into stuff. Like, that's supposed to look silly, and it does, and I love that, and it's great. And really, the shots that seem to like hurt from it are the shots that are kind of like where they're having to put the stop motion in with the live action. And it's not the stop motion's even bad. It's just that the integration process, they either didn't have the budget or the technology itself wasn't really as far along as it should be. Although, like, you look at movies from like 20 years before and they could do it pretty well, but those movies were huge movies. So, yeah, some of those things really don't hold up. But in terms of the practical effects, even when the continuity is a little bit iffy, the effects themselves are still really solid. Again, not all of them look real, but they all achieve their goal. And, like, just so many of them, like the different individual makeups for guys like Ed and, you know, Ash himself whenever he's evil. And then, like, at the end of it when you have all the trees and you got, like, the big tree puppet guy who comes through and he's got a hand. Like, it's, like, fucking crazy, dude. All that stuff is so freaking good. And obviously it would be because, like, the guys who worked on this movie would end up becoming the guys who would go on to start K&B Studios, like the #1 kind of effects company out there in terms of film. Like, Tarantino uses them, like big studios use them. The Walking Dead, they did like all the stuff for Walking Dead. So yeah, like, in this movie started K&B Effects, and they have all this great footage from like behind the scenes of them actually like testing out the different makeups and things of that nature. Like, it's really fantastic, and you can see how much they really loved what they were doing, and you can tell in the work. There's so much care put into it. Which is, again, why I say even the effects that don't work, they don't hold up by today's standard. It's like, they're still solid effects in terms of the intent, and they executed them to the best of their ability. But yeah, I'd be lying if I said that someone who's going in blind expecting real quality effects from Sam Raimi, the director of Spider-Man and A Simple Plan, and The Great and Powerful Oz, you know, they were probably expecting like little cleaner effects. But, like, again, this is really Sam Raimi at a period in his career where he's just emerging as motherfucking Sam Raimi. You know? So, like, this movie definitely had a bigger budget than the first Evil Dead or some of his other outings, but it still wasn't a huge budget. So, for the money they had, I think that they did an excellent job with all the effects, whether it be visual effects or practical effects, and they look absolutely great. It's definitely one of the things, that mix of, like, weird, like, scary, campy, and silly and ridiculous just is what has made this movie so enduring. You could not have this movie without the wacky, wacky effects.
Oh, double barrel here! Blow your butts! The kingdom come! See if we don't.
right on Children of the Screen, so I think it's pretty obvious. But, Taylor, would you recommend this movie for Halloween viewing this season?
Yes, definitely.
And I motherfucking would as well. This is goddamn motherfucking Evil Dead 2. Yeah, don't worry, my channel's not monetized. I know, I don't give a fuck. This is Evil Dead 2. I'm gonna do what I do. So yes, I definitely recommend you guys go and check out this movie. It's highly entertaining, and it's, again, probably one of my top 5 favorite movies of all time. Getting to show this movie specifically to Taylor is half the reason why we're doing Evil Dead October. So, thank you guys very much for watching. If you like this video, please leave a like and share it with some friends. Also, if you're not subscribed, make sure to subscribe and check the links down in the description below for all of my Instagram and social media, as well as the Indiegogo campaign for the film I'm working on, so check that out. Anyway, guys, thank you very much. I hope y'all have a good one.
Bye, guys.
Right on, guys. Nerd scum. Hey, you think you can get rid of me that easily? Ah, Taylor! Taylor! The